Hello and welcome back to the Pomegranate Girl. My name is Annie and this is a knitting and creative podcast all about knitting. Sometimes I talk about my sewing and what other creative endeavours I've been up to, but mostly it is a knitting podcast where I talk about my most recent finished objects, the things I'm currently working on and kind of upcoming plans. So yeah, welcome back. I have no idea what episode number we are on. It's lovely to have you back after a slightly extended break that was unintentional as always. So yeah, sorry if you can hear any background noise. My partner's working from home today and I am on a day off. So yeah. I have a few finished objects, some works in progress to talk about, including a test knit and some other things, and then I also got a few future plans that I want to discuss, but mostly just really whips, no acquisitions. I'm not going to talk too much about sewing today or do a full roundup of books. I'm just going to mention one book that I've read recently and a book that I'm currently reading, and yeah, just to talk a bit about my knitting. So the jumper that I'm wearing today was a finished object in my last episode, which was quite a few months ago now. It's the Sara Sweater by Leena, I believe her name is. It is a turtleneck sweater, although there are other neckline options. It's kind of a full length sweater with a split hem option. Then the pattern also has pockets, but I opted to not include those just because I didn't really think I'd use them. It's a raglan, so it's got this really nice twisted rib detail. It's got twisted rib on the hem, on the cuffs and on the neckline, and I knit mine out of woolly knit in cinnamon brown or cinnamon, and a shade of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair or silk mohair called Rust. I think I knit it at the intended needle size, but yeah, it's a lovely sweater. I haven't really worn it much because we've had a fairly, although it hasn't been a boiling hot summer, we have had quite warm-ish and particularly muggy weather in the southwest of England where I live. So I haven't really had a chance to wear this much, and also we live in a new build, or a fairly new-ish build flat. So we don't really need to we never really turn the heating on, just because it's quite a warm building. It's quite a big block of flats, so there is a lot of other heat going on, and we're also quite high up, so we don't need to really keep the heating on too much, or have it on at all, because there's so much warmth in the surrounding flats. So yeah, we don't tend to really, even in the winter, need to I haven't actually been here for a full winter, but I live with my partner, and before I moved in, he was living with one of his friends, and yeah, they didn't really ever put the heating on, and I don't really foresee us needing to do that either. And also we don't really need to wear a lot of warm stuff. So yeah, that was a bit of a ramble about why I don't actually think I'm going to get that much wear out of this, unless we have a freezing cold winter, or I'm like going out of the house, but it's definitely not, it's something a bit too warm to be wearing at the moment, but I just really like it, and I love the colour, and it just feels very autumnal. Over the past weekend we've definitely had a bit of a cold snap, where the temperatures have dipped down to about 10 degrees in the southwest of England, which isn't as cold as it does get, but it's a lot colder than it has been recently. So yeah, it was nice to be able to feel like I could actually wear knitwear at last. So yeah, that is what I'm wearing. I have two finished objects to share with you, which were both works in progress in my last episode. So the first of those is a pair of socks. which are these ones here. I actually have 3 works in progress. I've just realised I've got another one in a project bag, which is just down on the floor beside me. But I will talk you through these first. These are a pair of socks that I knit out of Ainsworth and Prynne classic sock, which is a, can't remember the exact meterage, but it's a very classic 4-ply. I think it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I can't remember this colourway. It came as a sock set, but it's this obviously very beautiful kind of very autumnal, dusky, pinky, browny colour, which is one of my favourite colours to wear. I don't think it massively suits me wearing it, but I just love it as a colour. So I do tend to knit with it a lot. I just feel like it's very autumnal. So this pattern is the Hearth and Home Socks by Lindsey Fowler. It's not a super new pattern. I think it's a few years old now. It's quite simple vanilla sock with this like texture pattern. It's got a 2x2 twisted rib at the top, just a usual heel flap and gusset, and then a usual kind of standard toe decrease on either side, like a wedge toe. These were just kind of a travel knit for me. I didn't knit them too much at home, so they took me quite a while to finish. But I just really enjoy them, and I haven't actually worn them yet. I've been saving them for the podcast, so I'm very glad that I can now finally get to them, because as I said, we've now had this kind of cold snap, so I feel like I can actually wear some of my knitted items. And today is the first time that I'm wearing woolen socks this whole winter or autumn winter period, so I'm very glad that I can also finally be wearing these. Sorry, I just had to, I've just been away and I've come back with this like cold, which is, I thought I had managed to avoid the kind of annual autumn winter start of the cold season kind of flu / cold, but it seems like I haven't been able to. So yeah, excuse me, I just had to go off screen and blow my nose. But yeah, so I have finished these socks, and I'm so glad that I can finally now wear them. If you've previously watched any of my podcasts, you'll know that I don't usually knit with merino nylon sock blends, just because I kind of prefer how 100% wool feels on, or more rustic wool nylon blends feel on my feet. But I had to make an exception because this colour is so beautiful, and I think Ainsworth and Prynne in general do really lovely hand-dyed yarn. So yeah, I would definitely buy from them again and use it for gifts, and also for myself. If the colour is beautiful enough, I'm happy to kind of switch out the rustic sock yarn for something a bit more, I suppose, standard in for a sock yarn. But yeah, I really love the texture, and I definitely recommend this pattern as well. I think it comes in quite a variety of sizes, from child to various adult sizes. So yeah, I would definitely make this again. It was a nice kind of alternative to a vanilla sock pattern. So that is finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 ended up being a really big and quite long and time-consuming work in progress for me, and it is my Vertices Unite shawl. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to show this all on to you on camera, but Vertices Unite is a shawl pattern by Stephen West. I think it's a few years old now, and I'm not a huge shawl knitter. Again, if you've watched any of my previous episodes, you'll know that I don't tend to knit them, but I do wear them a lot. I have one particular shawl, which is the Sprouted Shawl by Jacqueline Cizak, that I wear basically every day in the winter. So I thought I would try and mix things up a bit and knit some more shawls. I just don't tend to really enjoy, I don't love knitting flat. I prefer knitting in the round. And the long rows kind of get to me with shawls, but I love having the finished object. So yeah, the Vertices Unite shawl was something I kind of originally decided to knit because I really wanted to knit a Stephen West pattern, but I don't they're quite extravagant. They're very beautiful patterns, but they're quite extravagant and quite detailed, and they're just not what I enjoy wearing. I think they look beautiful on other people, but they don't really suit my style. I think I'm a much more minimalist person, and I think also a lot of his shawls, his designs, he knits with very bright yarns, and I find it quite hard to envision myself wearing any of them, although they are stunning. But the Vertices Unite, I have seen a few versions knit by various different people that I have really, really loved. And I really liked the kind of aspect of being able to use up quite a bit of different yarns from my stash. And I finally finished it. I started it, I believe, in the summer of 22. So yeah, just really relieved to have it finished. As you can see, this is section number 1. So I'll kind of talk you through the different yarns. So this pink is John Arbon Yarnadelic in the shade Pink Moon, which I used for my soiree jumper a few years ago. And then the white cream is a Biche et Bouche Le Petit Lambswool that I used for my mum's Talvinin that I also knit her a few years ago. Then the dark kind of rusty, it's more of a kind of chestnut brown colour, is again Yarnadelic by John Arbon in the colourway Galetta Guitar, which is a Corriedale, yeah, 100% Falklands Corriedale yarn. And then this cream colour I think is just Scottish Lambswool, I'm not sure on the breed. This greeny sage green, which I've used on the border and on the stripes here, is from my sprouted shawl. It's John Arbon Devonia 4-ply in the colourway Sage Sprig, which is a Devon Close Wool or BFL and Zwartballs and maybe Wensleydale mix. I'm not entirely sure, but it's like a British Southwest wool. So yeah, those kind of make up the first section was the real slog. Once I kind of got past this section 1, I enjoyed the rest of it a lot more and kind of got through it a lot quicker. So then yeah, this is the Sage Sprig colourway on its own, which is this beautiful kind of sage green, greeny grey. This dark green colourway is Tuku Wool for Tuku 4-ply. I can't remember what it's called, I'll have it linked down below. And I can't remember the colourway, but it's this beautiful kind of dark green. It's an 100% finish, I believe, wool. So all of these are quite rustic. I'd say this Tuku wool is probably the most rustic one. And then this is the cream and the kind of chestnut striped, and then this is the Pink Moon on its own. So yeah, it is, oh, it's such a beautiful shawl, again because it has, I finished this in the summer. I haven't quite worn this yet. It is not cold enough for me to wear both a turtleneck jumper and a shawl, but I'd probably just wear it a bit like, oh gosh, I have not done a good job, but a bit more like a scarf. So you can see all the wrapped ends, or all the sections, sorry. So yeah, I'd probably wear it bundled up like this, but it is beautifully squishy. I love the garter, and I did really, again, once I finished that first kind of massive mammoth stripe section, I really enjoyed knitting this. I can't remember what number it was, but this kind of dark green section was also a bit of a slog, but I just kind of powered through it at that point because I really wanted to finish object. I knit this comes in 2 sizes, and I have also seen on Ravelry people kind of suggest numbers to knit in between size, but I just knit the largest size. I had enough kind of yarn of each colourway to do that, luckily, and I wanted something really big that I could kind of wrap myself up in. But yeah, I loved knitting this by the end, and I really, really love all my kind of yarn choices. You can probably see them all there. Yeah, it's just really, I'm so happy with it, and I really enjoyed doing the I-cord. I thought the I-cord would take me ages, and it actually didn't take me as long as I was expecting. I still think I did it over a couple of evenings after work. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and again, after I got over that initial section, and I'm so looking forward to wearing the finished item. I just think the I-cord looks, it just adds this like extra neatness, and kind of, yeah, between the sections. The one thing I will say that I don't think I knew before I started the pattern is that this pattern utilises short rows, and you use them for the first time in this section here, and you can potentially see that I didn't resolve. They are garter short rows, and it's a Stephen West technique. I don't know if he invented it or if it's just he has a video on it on his channel, but he has a special way of resolving short rows when you do them in garter, and I would recommend watching that. I didn't do it for this first section, and I think it blocked out fairly well, but there were definitely a few gaps. You can probably see like there. Like, it's not massively obvious now that I've blocked it, but it did kind of, he doesn't write in the pattern that you need to do this resolving technique. So yeah, it's just a note that I would maybe recommend looking at that before you do this section, so that you know exactly what you're doing, because yeah, I didn't do it at all. I just kind of knit them as usual, and there's a way of kind of closing the gap, which Stephen explains in this video, so I would just recommend following that. But yeah, so glad that I've now got this finished. I have a few shawl patterns that I would like to knit. I think I spoke about them both last time. I'd like to knit this Sophie shawl / scarf by PetiteKnit, and I would also like to knit the Waiting for Rain shawl by Sylvia McFadden, which I have the yarn for, but I don't know if I'll be knitting them anytime soon. I mean, I'd love to knit the Sophie shawl, but the Waiting for Rain is probably going to be a next year project now. But yeah, I enjoyed knitting the Vertices Unite. I don't know how many more Stephen West shawl patterns I'll knit, just because I don't knit a lot of shawls, and some of his jumper patterns are a bit too, I suppose they're quite detail heavy, but I would definitely knit some of his sock patterns. He's done quite a few sock patterns this year, kind of using motifs that he's previously used in jumpers and shawls, which are things that I think are really cool. They just aren't things I personally wear, so it's nice to see them in socks. And he's obviously also got blanket patterns, which are beautiful. So yeah, definitely would knit some of his patterns again. I thought it was, aside from that one small thing about the video, and the kind of resolving short rows, that I didn't think was particularly clear, I would, yeah, really recommend his patterns. And you all know Stephen West. I'm sure most of you have knit some of his patterns before anyway. So yeah, those are my first two finished objects, but I also have a third finished object which I'd kind of forgotten about, which is another pair of socks. So these are a pair of colourwork socks. I'm just going to pop them on my sock blockers now, but I finished, I think, last week, and I have just finished weaving in all the ends this morning, but they haven't been blocked yet, so bear that in mind. Especially as they're colourwork socks, I think they'll look neater once they've been given a good block. These are the Bits and Bobs socks by Shop Knitting Nellie, Morgan, I think her name is. Yeah, they are a pair of colourwork socks. I'm really sorry they don't look as tidy as they would have if they'd been blocked, but yeah, they're a pair of kind of striped colourwork socks. I knit them using both scraps and leftovers, as well as a few other mini skeins that I just had lying around that I'd gotten in like sock sets, or that I bought because I really loved the colours. So yeah, they obviously, I hadn't really noticed this, but my friend said, I was knitting on them in the car earlier this summer when we were going to a wedding, and my friend who was sitting in the back seat with me said, oh, they look really autumnal, and I hadn't really thought of that until she pointed that out, but I actually think they do look quite autumnal. So yeah, they are mostly just stripes, and then you've got these few colour work rows where you're working with 2 colours. There is I'm not sure if you'd call this, it's not an integrated heel, a afterthought heel, but you put in a lifeline, so you don't actually cut your yarn. I think that might be called a peasant heel. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've done that quite a few times before. I think I first did it on a pair of like socks that I was knitting myself, but I've also seen it used by Albion McLaughlin in some of her sock patterns. So yeah, these are majority superwash merino sock blends, so again quite unusual for me. This one, green, is a really beautiful one from Life in the Long Grass that I've knit a pair of socks out of before. I think it's in the colourway Hillside, and it's just a beautiful green. This is a Mondim colour. There are a few from Villain, and also a few from Lichen and Lace. I know this blue one is from Lichen and Lace, and Ainsworth and Prynne there's a few of. And then these 2 here are actually not superwash merinos. These are Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company natural sock, which is a BFL Cheviot sock blend with no nylon and no superwash. And then I think this again is either one from Villain or one from Ainsworth and Prynne. So yeah, a real mixture, but I really enjoyed knitting these. These kind of will look like little flowers. You can see kind of better on this one what that will look like, but yeah, once these are blocked out, I think they'll look really nice. And I really enjoy knitting them. Again, comes in a few sizes, I think mostly adult sizes though, but there are quite a few sizes. I knit them on a 2.5. I usually knit my socks on a 2.25, but because these were colour work, I wanted to go up a needle size, and yeah, they seem to fit well. I'll see what they fit like after blocking, but I think for the most part they are probably slightly too big. I quite like a close fitting sock, but that way they'll be nice and warm. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to wearing these kind of with my boots this autumn. And I think, yeah, you can actually see mostly in this stripe here where I wasn't really paying attention to what I'd previously done, and I picked up the wrong pink that I'd reused. I think this is my first sock, and then the second one I used the wrong pink, and then you can see here on the foot that they switch around again. And then these 2 on the bottom just before the toe, again, I think just look slightly different, and I must have just used the wrong yarn. But it doesn't really matter, they're just socks, and I think they look close enough to not be too noticeable. But yeah, this is a Shop Knitting Nellie pattern. She has quite a few really sweet sock patterns. It was very well written. I really enjoyed knitting from the pattern, so I definitely recommend her patterns, and this one in particular. I don't usually like doing this style of heel. I think the fit is fine, it's more just I don't enjoy personally knitting it as much, and also I find that I can never quite get the holes. This is like I've woven in some of my ends, but I still can't quite get rid of the holes at the kind of pick up point where you do your heel, but I'll do it for colourwork socks. But yeah, super excited now I've shown you these to block them and to wear them, and I'm sure you'll see a photo of them on my Instagram hopefully once they're all nice and blocked. So that is it for finished objects. One big shawl and 2 pairs of socks that I'm very excited to be wearing going into the autumn winter period. I've got 3 kind of current works in progress, 2 that I'm working on kind of solidly. I'm not going to show you one of them as they're a gift, and I know the person that watches that therefore watches this podcast, so I'm will show them to you once they're done and gifted. But the first work in progress I wanted to show you is a test knit, and it is for the lovely Rebecca Clow of the Creative Bear podcast. I'm sure you all follow her. She is a prolific and very talented designer. I've actually bought quite a few of her patterns. I've watched Rebecca for a very long time. I absolutely love her podcast. I think she is, yeah, such a lovely person. And yeah, I was very, very grateful to be picked for her test group for the 6 season sweater. But yeah, I followed Rebecca for quite a long time, and I do own a few of her patterns. She's done a few charity releases which I've really wanted to support, and also has just released some beautiful designs, but I haven't actually knit any of them yet. So I was very excited when she picked me for her test group. So the 6 season sweater, it looks a little bit like this. I will make sure I insert a photo of one of Rebecca's photos of what it actually looks like all finished. It is a top down drop shoulder sweater with this beautiful kind of rib detailing along the top, and then it has another beautiful kind of seam finish here which is rib, and that runs alongside the underarm. Sorry, this is a bit messy to show you, but it will run alongside the underarm, and it flows really nicely into the body rib, so you can see there that flows in super nicely. So the 6 season is a jumper that is Rebecca designed, inspired by a song by, I believe the artist is called Noah Khan. He's actually not someone I'd listened to before. Rebecca spoke about him. He's like a country musician, country alternate indie folk musician, I'd say. He's from America, and yeah, Rebecca designed this beautiful sweater inspired by this song, and also by a yarn that I think she designed this sweater in a yarn by Explorer Knits, and it was a collaboration between Rebecca and I believe the dye's name is Ali from Explorer Knits. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. She's an American dyer, so I don't really keep up with American hand dyers because it's just not very easy to get your hands on it in the UK, but she has beautiful yarn. But yeah, I very rarely apply to test knit just because I'm quite a slow knitter, and I hate the kind of deadline aspect of it. That when Rebecca kind of released this, I really loved the concept of the sweater. I thought it was amazing that she designed something inspired by this song, and I also just loved the sweater design, so I applied to test knit and yeah, got chosen. So I am knitting the size 5, which at this current time I'm not going to quote what the finished measurement is because I don't think it's fully been finalised, and I also can't quite remember, but I'll make sure I speak about it in my next episode. And if you follow me on Instagram, once this is released, I'll kind of give all the details then. But yeah, the 5th size, and just for clarification, my bust measurement is around 105 to 107 centimetres. So the deadline is the 1st of November. I think I'm allowed to share that. I'll double check with Rebecca before posting this. And I have knit the whole of the body. I have finished this. I was just on a cable because I was knitting this in the car when I went away this weekend to visit a friend, and don't worry, I was the passenger, I wasn't driving. So yeah, I finished the hem in the car, and I haven't been able to try it on until I got back I got back very late last night, and I tried it on today, and yeah, this is the right length, so I just need to bind off. So yeah, I've done the whole body, and I've done the very chunky neckband, which I think is really lovely and soft, and I've done, I'd say, like a third of the sleeve, nearing a half of the sleeve before, if we're not including the cuff. and today's date is, I think, around, we're just over halfway through October. So yeah, I'm hoping I will finish it in time. I'm gonna do some kind of speed knitting, and I'm pretty quick at finishing sleeves. So yeah, I'm hoping that I finish this on time in order to give feedback, so that Rebecca has like the best feedback possible, and also like the most accurate kind of representation of how much yarn I used for my size. But yeah, I should probably say the yarn that I'm using for this is Peruvian Highland wool from Filcolana in the colourway Burnt Sienna. It is this really, it's not too dissimilar to the jumper I'm wearing, but it's a bit more red. And it's, yeah, this beautiful kind of reddy brown. I applied for the test knit when I was watching When Harry Met Sally, which is a beautiful Nora Ephron film, and I hadn't actually watched it before, but as you'll probably know if you're a knitter, there are some beautiful jumpers in that film, and just beautiful outfits of Meg Ryan's in general. Meg Ryan plays the titular character Sally, and yeah, she had a sweater in a kind of similar colour to this, and I was like, oh my gosh, where can I find a yarn that matches that colour? So yeah, that's kind of the story behind the yarn. Obviously Rebecca originally designed this sweater in Explore Knits, a kind of one of her, I think it's a non-superwash DK base. I'm not sure of like the composition of the wool, but it's a DK, and this matched the gauge pretty much, and was just a more easily accessible yarn for me to get a hold of for a test. And I do have a sweater's quantity of Peruvian Highland wool in my stash for a cardigan that I haven't actually knit yet. So this is my first time actually knitting with this, and it's so lovely. One, it's very affordable. I think this jumper will cost me around £40 to £45 for the 5th size, which is kind of the middle size. In general, which I think is really good for a kind of 100% wool sweater that's non-superwash. It's very soft to me. As someone that wears a lot of kind of rustic wools, I do think this is quite soft. And when I blocked my swatch, it got super drapey. I will show you actually. So this is the wool in the skein. I'd say it kind of looks it's a little bit more red in real life, but it does have these kind of beautiful kind of different shades in there, which I love. In terms of yardage, it's 100 meters per 50 grams, so pretty true DK weight. It recommends 4 to 5 millimeter needles for 16 to 20 stitches per 10 centimeters. I can't remember the gauge for this pattern off the top of my head, but I think Rebecca used 3.5 millimeter needles for her to get the stockinette gauge, and I'm using 3.75. I'm quite a tight knitter in general, so I do often find that I have to go up needle sizes. But yeah, something to I don't think many other people have had to go up needle sizes from memory in the test group. But let me find my swatch so you can see how this blocks out, because I haven't done any kind of mid knit block as of yet. So this is my swatch. This is actually in the colour yarn that I have the other sweater quantity of. I basically had to order this yarn and I wanted to kind of get swatching, so I swatched with just this old yarn that I have for the champagne cardigan. So yeah, you can see, I think it's not obviously super drapey, but it is, I think it's not super stiff and rigid. So this was my gauge swatch with the 3.5, and then I realised that my gauge was off, so I switched to 3.75 for this section. And yeah, this is what the texture will look like when it's blocked out. So So yeah, they will kind of grow width-wise, I think. Sorry. So yeah, very, very much enjoying this. I am so excited to have the finished product. Yeah, just really, it's really nice to kind of be doing a garment test knit. And yeah, it's really lovely to kind of do that. I've test knitted for one person before. It was Danielle from Little Bobbins, and it was one of her Christmas sock patterns a few years ago. So this is quite a different test knit. There's like an Instagram group and a lot of chat on there with lots of lovely people. So yeah, it's just it's a nice experience to test knit. I haven't test knitted a garment before, so it's just really nice to be able to do it. And I've really enjoyed it. There have really not been any issues for the pattern, I don't think at all. Definitely not for my size. So yeah, it's been a very easy test knit to be a part of, and Rebecca's been super great and very helpful. So I've really enjoyed test knitting for her. And yeah, I am just very excited to have this finished, and I'm hoping that if I get it done in time, I can persuade my partner to take some photos of me wearing it. We've got a really nice kind of woodland area near us, so I'm hoping if the weather is okay, he will take some good photos. It's not Rebecca doesn't require Instagram photos, I don't think, for the test, but it's just something I want to do. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying this, and I will hopefully do a podcast before it comes out, or just soon after, but just follow Rebecca for details on release date and any updates on yardage or anything else. I know she is going to Rhinebeck, which I'm very sad to be not going to, because I feel like everyone is going this year. Well, I know she's going there. So yeah, if you're going, I know there's a meet up with people that have knit this or are in the tester group. So yeah, look out for them. And I'm very sad that I'm not going to be joining. I'm hopefully, it is on my wish list to go, if not next year, the year after. My partner and I are planning a big trip to the States. Neither of us have been before. So yeah, I'm hoping we can go then. The one last thing actually I did want to mention is just one acquisition that I've made is these beautiful stitch markers from Ord of Bobbles and Berries, I think is her company name. But she makes beautiful embroidered project bags and also notion pouches and these beautiful stitch markers. So I treated myself to these little pumpkin ones that she's made. So I've got one on my sleeve and then one on the body as well. Ooh. As you can see here. But yeah, these are so lovely. I don't usually treat myself to things because I have a lot of stitch markers, but always are just so beautiful, and I'd love one of her project bags at some point, so that's definitely something I'll be purchasing in the future. But yeah, they are so beautiful, and she's got a really stunning collection. She's got some really nice sheep one that I'm going to get home for myself at some point. But yeah, just a little shout out if you're looking for new stitch markers or project bags and you don't, or if you want a new knitting podcast to watch. I love Ord's podcast. I love what she makes. She is also in the 6th season test group. But yeah, these, I would really, really highly recommend her stitch markers and her work in general. I think she is so talented, and I wanted to really support her work and hadn't yet, so wanted to do that. So that is whip number 1, and there is one more that I am going to show you. So my other whip is also a jumper, and it is actually what I was working on as kind of my main project until I got on to Rebecca's test knit. So it's slightly fallen by the wayside in the meantime, but I have worked on it every now and then when I've just needed something plain stockinette. And it is my Stockholm Sweater. I can't remember where this was at last time I showed you, but this is a pattern by PetiteKnit. It is another drop shoulder jumper design. This knit in a very similar combination to this. It is using a cane from Woolly Knit in the colourway Sage. I think it's called Sage or Sage Sprig. It's and then a alpaca and wool, and maybe something else. It's basically an alternative to silk mohair, but it's alpaca and maybe a plant fibre. Have I got a ball band in here? Oh, I don't. It's from Camarose. I'll leave it written down below. But it's an alpaca alternative to a silk mohair. So yeah, this is my progress. So as you can see, I haven't really progressed much. I have done the back, I've done the front, and I have joined in the round. I think I've done about 5 centimeters of the body. As you can see, I think I'm knitting the 6th or the 5th largest size. And I did obviously look at the finished garment measurements, but I just think this is a bit too big for me. And I mean, I probably will just continue with it because I do love oversized jumpers, but I think one of the things that I've kind of come to the realization is I do like an oversized garment, but I don't love something like really, really oversized. And sometimes for me, I just personally prefer something slightly less oversized in terms of fit. I just prefer how it looks on me. So I think this is also partially why I haven't worked on this as much, is because I think it's just going to be really, really big and I maybe won't love the finished result. I mean, I'm sure I will because I think it's a really nice pattern and I've wanted this kind of colour of jumper for a really long time, and I think it would be really nice in the spring because it's like this beautiful kind of sage green colour. But yeah, I'm just not feeling massively enthused about it because I think it's going to be quite big. So we'll see. I definitely want to carry on working on it, but I might pick up for I might do a bit more of the body and then pick up for the collar and kind of see how I feel. And if I'm not loving it, I might rip it out and then just knit the smaller size. The reason I'm kind of hesitating on doing that is because this was a lot of work already. This is knit on a 4mm needle, but I think just it's a lot of purling, and I just am finding that I'm not progressing with it very quickly, which is why I'm not picking it up to knit. But yeah, I don't know. I've been very focused on my 6th season test. So I think once that is done and I've made a bit of progress with some of my kind of Christmas present kind of projects, I will reevaluate where I'm at with this and maybe add the collar, see how I feel after doing that. Because obviously at the moment the neck opening is really wide, because again, similar to the 6th season, this Stockholm has quite a deep ribbed collar. So I think once that's added, I'll be able to kind of assess on, and added a bit more to the body, I'll be able to assess on the fit a bit more. And then I can just have a think about whether I want to rip out and start again with a smaller size, which it would be very infuriating, but it would be worth it rather than doing all of this work and making a sweater that I maybe don't wear as much. I would definitely wear it a lot in the house, but if I wore it out as much would be a different question. But yeah, this is kind of how the yarns are working up together. They're a bit more, I'd say that they're a bit more kind of light. This looks a bit more dark grey on my camera, but they're a bit more light green in real life. And yeah, I'm enjoying the pattern. As with kind of every petite knit pattern, I think it's well written. I can't remember if this one has been updated with her most recent sizing. I will confirm kind of down below what the size range is. But yeah, I'm just so in two minds about this. I am enjoying picking it up when I need to, when I need like, yeah, when I like just need to work on something stockinette in the round. But I haven't knit on it loads. And yeah, we'll see. I'm sure next time I'll have a bit more of an update on for you on how I'm feeling about it and whether I will carry on knitting that size or if I'll rip it out and start re-knitting a smaller size. So those are all the whips that I have got to show you. In terms of other projects, I have been doing some sewing, but I'm not going to talk about that too much today. I just wanted to show you where I'm at with my quilt. So this is the Meadowland Quilt by Then Came June is the designer's company, but I can't remember her exact name. It's quite a simple quilt pattern. I'll try and see if I can show you a whole block. So this is what a block looks like. So it is all pieced together now, but I am finally on to the hand quilting element. I decided I was going to hand quilt this one. I have to say, although I'm enjoying it, I don't think I'll be hand quilting another quilt anytime soon. It's taking me quite a long time. I am using just hand quilting thread and just doing a kind of basic running stitch, and I've kind of made some grid outlines of where I'm quilting. Yeah, this is a quilter's thread from Gutermann, and then I'm using some, I just did some googling on like best tools to use. So I'm using some needles, I think from Clow, that are just quilter's needles. They're very short. I do have a leather thimble that I bought on just to see if it worked for me. I don't really like I don't really like using it, to be honest, so I haven't been using it a lot. I've mostly just been using a needle and thread. And this has been really nice to work on. I've just been prioritising working on my 6 season sweater test. But I am really enjoying this. I am loving how the quilting is turning out. I've tried to keep it as kind of even as possible. And I'm, yeah, really just enjoying working on it. You can see on this side I have marked out kind of my lines with a ruler and a water erasable pen that I use for a lot of sewing. This is another line here. Yeah, I'm really enjoying working on it, but as I said, have been prioritising my 6 season sweater test. And also when I was working on that, it was just so hot and it wasn't cold enough really in the flat for me to be working on it. But now it's kind of switched temperature. I'm hoping to do a bit more on it. I would really like to finish it before Christmas, but we'll see. Just depends how many gift projects I have going on, and it is a slow process. I think in the future, I am currently working on another quilt kind of on and off that is a double size, like a full double bed width size. This is only a throw. And the double quilt I will think definitely get sent off to be long arm quilted, just because I'm enjoying the process, but it's taking me so long and I really want the finished object. So I think there are a few places in the UK, and there's definitely one not too far from me that I can send it off and get it kind of long arm quilted. It is expensive, but I just think for me the investment, and also the kind of, they do your basting for you, and I just think I didn't massively enjoy basting that quilt. I did it once and then I really messed it up and it was really wrinkly on the back, so I had to baste it again, and it just took the whole process has taken me about 10 months to even baste and start quilting again. So yeah, I think I just might send it off next time, which I feels like a bit of a guilty admission, but to be honest, I just don't know if I have the patience to do it again. I don't have a large amount of time to do my crafts, and there are other things I would rather be doing. like what I'd rather be focusing on in my craft, like knitting and being able to sew garments rather than quilting a quilt. I enjoy making the top, and I haven't got to the binding yet, but I'm sure that won't take me too long, hopefully. So it's just the actual hand quilting, and for something so large, at this point in time, I just don't really foresee myself wanting to do that. So I think for my next quilt, I will just get it long arm quilted by machine, which feels like a bit of a quilter's, yeah, a quilting misstep, but just for me, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, that is kind of it for sewing. In terms of future knitting and sewing plans, I've got a few garments I'm currently making that I might talk about in a future video. In terms of knitting, I have quite a few Christmas gifts that I would like to make. For the people, there's a few for different people that I know don't watch the podcast that I'd quite like to make a knitted hot water bottle cover for my dad. I think that is something he'd actually use and appreciate. And some, I've got plans to make some kind of thick slipper socks for my aunt. So hopefully they are, most of my kind of gift knitting this year is all quite small. I don't have a shawl, I don't have a jumper, I don't have anything big to knit, so I'm hoping that November and December I can just bash those out, and yeah, get some kind of gift knitting done soon and not in too much of a rush, so that I can focus on knitting things for myself as well. So yeah, that's it for all the knitting and kind of a quick sewing update. In terms of reading, I just quickly wanted to talk about a book I've read recently and the book I'm currently reading, because I think some of you might find them useful / enjoy. So the book that I read recently that I really enjoyed is called Threadneedle by Cari. It is a fantasy book about a young girl called Anna, or young girl, she's a teenager, called Anna, whose aunt is a binder, and a binder is a type of witch who binds magic using something called knot magic, and Anna is kind of destined to become a binder, but when some kind of her family reappear in her life, or her kind of wider circle kind of grows, she realizes that there are other witches, and she kind of learns about herself and her own magic, and the whole kind of magical world. It's very much a coming of age story, but set in London, with this kind of beautiful magical underworld that is so well written. I haven't really heard anyone talk about this online. I think I saw Cari has published a novella that is set in this world that is focuses around one of the characters in this book called Rowan, and I saw that in Waterstones, I think last year or the year before, and thought it sounded really interesting. Realised it was part of a series, so picked up the first book, and yeah, just I haven't really seen anyone talk about it, but I think it is such a beautiful book and I really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to kind of speak about it on my podcast because I enjoyed it so much, and I think if you're at all into kind of fantasy or kind of books about witchcraft and just magic, but also because of the kind of sewing / needlework and kind of element to it, I thought people might enjoy it, and it's got this stunning cover that is kind of in photography of embroidery as well, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this book, and yeah, I'd love to kind of see other people enjoy it as well. And it has so many good quotes, like Robin Hobb has recommended this book, and I love Robin Hobb's work. I don't read a lot of fantasy anymore, to be honest. I read a lot of it as a teenager, and I don't really read a lot, but this was just so good, and I'm eagerly awaiting the second book to be released. I think it's due for publication next year, but yeah, I just love to see other people reading it, because I rarely see other people talk about it. And yeah, I think it was published in 2021, so maybe that's why I haven't seen as much about it, because it's maybe slightly older. But yeah, really enjoyed it, and I'd highly recommend you read it if you enjoy fantasy or kind of any of the things that I've mentioned about it. And let me know if you have read it and what you thought of it. The other book then that I'm currently reading was a recommendation from one of my best friends, but I've also seen it spoken about, I think by Emma from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company, and it's called Wintering. It's by someone called Katherine May, and it is a non-fiction book about, the subtitle is The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. And that is kind of exactly what it is about. It's about this woman's journey into kind of accepting winter and loving winter. So her kind of talking about how to deal with she goes through some very difficult periods of her life, and how she talks about how she kind of accepts those and makes the kind of most of those situations that she calls wintering. And yeah, as someone who has previously struggled with kind of moving into the autumn and winter months, and also just I'm very interested in reading these kind of books about how people cope with difficult times. I just think as things, we all go through periods of our lives which are maybe more difficult or more stressful, and how reading about how other people have coped with that, I think, is just really interesting and very uplifting. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I think it's quite a famous book. I've seen a lot of people talk about it online, but yeah, as it seemed quite topical for the time of year, and I would really highly recommend it. I was so glad my best friend recommended it to me, and I will definitely be recommending it to a lot of people in my kind of actual real life as well. I just think a lot of people could really benefit from it. And it's also just really interesting, I think, if you enjoy this time of year. She talks a lot about traveling to kind of parts of Scandinavia and Iceland, and yeah, if you're at all interested in that kind of thing, I think you would really enjoy this. It's very short as well. It's just under 300 pages, but the type is quite large. So yeah, it's a quick read. But yeah, I would really highly recommend it. And yeah, I think she's got a new book out as well, my best friend was telling me. So I'd be interested in reading her new book as well. But yeah, would just really recommend it. And I think the cover of this is beautiful as well. Both very nice covers, and you can see that I'm not at all influenced by what things look like when picking what to read. But yeah, that is it for today's podcast episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you are all doing well and enjoying this kind of peak cozy time. I think I have got the rest of today off because I've got a day of annual leave. So I think it is afternoon now. It's, what time is it? 10 to 4 actually, so I don't have much of the daylight left, but I am going to do some more knitting on my 6 season sweater. My partner has just been home and his mum has a small apple orchard, so he has brought home so many apples, so I think I am going to make an apple crumble and plan what to make with the rest of the apples. I have previously made dried apple rings, which I love eating, but I can't seem to get the hang of making them properly. So if you have a recipe which you would recommend for making kind of dried apple rings, or apple crisps I think some people call them, please share, because when I've made them before I just haven't got the temperature or the time spent in the oven right. So yeah, I'm gonna make those, or hopefully we'll make those or something else with all of this amazing bounty of apples that we have. And yeah, maybe read my book as well and drink a nice cup of tea. So I hope you are all well, and thank you so much for sticking with me when I podcast very intermittently. I will try, life just gets in the way. I had a very busy summer. I've actually also changed jobs, so I'm in the kind of, I've been there a few months now, but yeah, have changed jobs kind of for kind of reasons out of my control. I got made redundant, and I was very lucky to find something new quite quickly, but it was definitely a bit of an unexpected change. But yeah, very happy to be in my new job and to have found something so quickly and to work with such lovely people. So yeah, very kind of busy, but enjoying like taking the moment to work on my crafts when I can. So yeah, I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hopefully see you all soon. Please let me know what you're working on down below or what you've been reading recently, and I will see you all soon, hopefully for another podcast. Bye.